Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Touchback, your weekly playbook for PPR domination.
Last week we covered quarterback, tight end, and kickers and started breaking down what exactly a PPR league is. Make sure you check out last week's show if you missed it and subscribe so you don't miss another.
Here's what's coming up today. We'll break down the top wide receivers and why target volume in a PPR league is so key. Then we'll dive into running backs, the pass catching backs who can win your week. After that, we'll cover defenses, including strategies and matchup tips. And at some point, we're going to tackle that flex position, including the difference between a flex league and a super flex league, and why that extra spot can make or break your lineup.
Before we dive in, let's recap PPR, points per reception. Every catch is worth a full point, which is on top of yards and touchdowns. So having the best running backs and receivers who catch often will give you a major boost in your fantasy league.
In PPR, volume is key. A 5-catch, 50-yard game is almost as valuable as a touchdown, as long as we weigh receptions when evaluating wide receivers and running backs.
Speaking of wide receivers and running backs, that's what this show is completely about. Unless you want to talk about flex and super flex first, Chris.
This sounds like a good time to talk about that. So a flex position is a position on your lineup where you can go ahead and have a running back play, a wide receiver play, or even a tight end play. You get to pick your choice, whoever has the best matchup for that week. The super flex position is if it includes a quarterback. Most dynasty leagues you see have that in there. Most of the ones that I've been in are part of Superflex. Have you ever had a Superflex, Megan?
I don't think so. I feel like maybe the OP in some of the leagues is the offensive position, and that also includes the quarterback.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Different lingo, different places, but all in all, it's very, very simple. It's just an extra way to go ahead and get that leg up on your competition. Because if I have a quarterback and you don't have an extra quarterback to play, then I'm probably going to score more points. But in your typical PPR leagues, you could go ahead and say, I decide to choose a wide receiver versus a running back. And you might say, well, my tight end has a better matchup than any of your wide receivers. It could definitely mean the end of winning that week.
Sounds good. Ready to talk about wide receivers?
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and get your list.
The key with wide receivers is having a quarterback who is consistent when he throws the ball. But it's also important that the receiver can lose his defender and glue the ball to his gloves, all while staying in bounds or turning the catch into some yards. My top 10 wide receiver picks are Jamar Chase. He's been with the league since 2021 and the entire time with Cincinnati. He has Joe Burrow at quarterback and did 1,708 yards and 17 touchdowns with him last year. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a highly productive wide receiver with Jared Goff throwing to him. Reliable hands, runs like a champ, and has the wherewithal to make plays after he catches the ball. Brian Thomas Jr., honestly not somebody I recognized before I started doing research for this podcast, but as the primary receiver in Trevor Lawrence throwing to him, he had 2,045 passing yards last year. I think he's a notable fantasy football addition. Drake London, fast. He will need to be with his Falcons schedule this year. Look to him to make big plays in Atlanta this year. Ladd McConkey is another sophomore player in his second year with the Chargers. Chargers are expected to do big things this year and have great strength and schedule. CeeDee Lamb. I'm on the fence with both CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. CeeDee is in Dallas without a great quarterback, but he also doesn't have a lot of competition. When it comes to Jerry Jeudy, I loved him in Denver. He's probably the best thing that's come out of Denver since Champ Bailey. Malik Neighbors. When it comes to the New York teams, more specifically the New Jersey teams, that's where players go to die. But Neighbors has been with the league for only the last 2 years and completely with the Giants. Finally, I have A.J. Brown rounding out my list. A.J. Brown is the only Eagles player to have multiple seasons with over 1,400 receiving yards. While not as many yards as the previous wide receivers on my list, the Eagles have a great strength of schedule and could be Super Bowl contenders again this year. What do you think, Chris?
I really like your list, Megan. We both have a lot of the exact same kind of stuff on here. We do have a few differences. but you have Jamar Chase at your number one. I do as well. Consensus number one pick. Thanks to the elite targets and target share in that pass heavy offense. Secondly, Justin Jefferson, you pretty much cleaned that up on all the information. CeeDee Lamb, I'm a bit higher on. I know that he's been on and off, and who else are they going to be able to take any of that timeshare from? But because CeeDee Lamb is so elite and Dak Prescott's number one receiver, I expect him to go ahead and pull in all that volume, which is what we were talking about earlier. Next is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff, fantastic. The fact that Ben Johnson moved to Chicago, though, and we talked about this with Caleb Williams, is that I want to make sure that he's still going to get it. Jameson Williams, which is the wide receiver 2 for the Detroit Lions, he's probably going to have a lot more of the go routes, which are the long distance routes. So you're going to see Amon-Ra St. Brown go ahead and go underneath. AJ Brown, I'm higher on, but I'm kind of the exact same boat as who else is going to catch the ball. You have Devontae Smith, which is an absolute speed machine, and he can go ahead and pick off any kind of route that he wants. But AJ Brown is that Calvin Johnson kind of Megatron. I'm going to take the ball away from you. Puka Nacua. Now, Puka last year did have injuries, but after week 10, he was one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league. As long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy, Puka Nacua should have a really big year. Don't have to say much more on Brian Thomas Jr. You pretty much said it all there. Lad McConkey as well. Mike Evans, I just want to see if he ever slows down. 1,000 yards every single year he is in the league. And with Chris Godwin being injured for the first at least 4 games of the season, he's going to get the timeshare of Baker Mayfield's production. And finally, Nico Collins. There's nobody else in Houston. Nobody. CJ Stroud is going to give Nico Collins the ball every single drive at least twice. I guarantee it. And a fun little stat that you didn't know about, I'm sure, is that Nico Collins, every single year that he's been in the league, has put up a 60-yard touchdown every single season. At least one. So you guarantee he's going to be in there for that. So that's wide receivers. The biggest key to remember with wide receivers is volume. So when you're catching the ball versus running it, yards after catch, touchdowns, volume. Another position that you have to worry about volume is the running back. They can pass catch, they can run the ball as well, but they are going to touch the ball more than any other position other than the quarterback. So let me go ahead and get you started with my list on the running backs. To start it off is Jahmyr Gibbs for me. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a huge year. With Ben Johnson out of Detroit, you're going to go ahead and see Dan Campbell start biting kneecaps, as he said when he first came in. He's going to want to run and pound that ball and make sure that nobody wants to mess with Detroit. So I expect him to have an exceptional PPR league. Bijan Johnson, the absolutely top of the line running back from last year. High target, multifaceted back who dominated early rounds in PPR rankings. Ashton Genty, the new kid on the block. Running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, their first round pick. He's the only running back that anybody was ever talking about in the first couple of rounds. Yes, you have this and that, but we'll go ahead and see if Pete Carroll can allow him to do some Marshawn Lynch type things. Derrick Henry, King Henry. The man is a workhorse upon workhorses upon workhorses. You can't bring him down with one-arm tackles. He doesn't really catch the ball, but the one thing about Derrick Henry, he will always get that goal line touch. And that means touchdowns upon touchdowns upon touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, jack of all trades. One of Jalen Hurts' best weapons to have in that backfield. He pass catches, he catches everything out of the backfield, and he can run the ball and has great vision. Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey and I have a love-hate relationship, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, Megan, that we just want to make sure that he can stay healthy. He was injured in Carolina. He got injured in San Francisco. When he's on the field, he's amazing. Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis Colts. The only one that's worth any look is Jonathan Taylor. He was elite back a few years back, but now the fact that they have Daniel Jones under center and maybe Richardson later in the year, the one constant is going to be Jonathan Taylor. James Cook, Buffalo Bills, just ended up signing that new deal, is going to show out. It's going to prove that new salary, that new contract. I don't expect him to score as many touchdowns as he did last year, leading the league, but I do expect him to still go ahead and get those yards and be on the field more than 1 or 2 third downs a game. Josh Jacobs, a top flight running back that is ranked very high in all PPR rankings. If you look at the different fantasy football leagues, ESPN has him ranked as a top 5 running back. I've had him before. He's a hard-nosed runner, but we will go ahead and see how Green Bay wants to use it. It's a Shanahan offense, so there's going to be a lot of running. And Bucky Irving for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucky is going to go ahead and be able to run the rock. I'm not real sure about how his pass catching is with that, but again, it's going to be the same kind of thing with Derrick Henry. The volume is going to be on that goal line. Get those touchdowns, make that work. So that's my list, Megan. What about you?
I can't believe you have James Cook on your list. Good luck. But at the same time, I can't believe we're agreeing so much. Probably the first time in the years that I've been your big sister. The only notable exception I have on my list is Kyren Williams at number 6. He had a breakout season in 2003 and followed it up with a strong performance in 2024. He rushed over 1,000 yards in both years. I also have Chubba Hubba and Joe Mixon running out my bottom 2. I know, Joe Mixon. Is he IR? Is he PUP? I just feel that he's going to be great in the last half of the season and be a great opportunity for trading if you need that in your league.
Very good point. Joe Mixon, he's never been one to shy away, and he is a fantastic running back. That injury just scares me way, way too much. Make sure to like and subscribe now. So that's the running backs. Remember, they're all about volume, but in a different way than the pass-catching wide receiver. It's running from the backfield. It's those goal line stands. It's making sure that they get those touchdowns and are running the ball as much as possible with a couple catches here and there. But of course, there's another side of the ball. That's the defense. Now, the defense is something where they're going to get points for stops. They're going to get points for yards against. They're going to get points for interceptions. They're going to get points for fumbles. They're going to get points for special teams. The defense is a whole nother animal, as it were. Megan, how do you pick your defenses?
I usually pick my entire offense and then do whatever the fantasy team thing recommends. I don't really care about defenses. Just make sure that they don't have the same bye week. I usually pick 2 because there's an opportunity for trade or whatever else, but I usually let the recommendations handle whatever the defenses are going to be.
So we do that a little different. I do a little bit more of a where the matchups are or strength of schedule and that kind of feel for me. I'm usually picking my defense, at least my first defense, earlier in the draft than the last couple picks. But this is the beauty of it. Because of this year, the special teams having such a huge impact on the league, you're going to get more out of your defense this year than you will have it out of any other year prior to this. So my list starts off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I honestly think that Pittsburgh is going to be a low scoring all the time team because they're going to keep it close. They're going to run the ball a whole lot. So you know that there's not going to be a lot of yards against. And the score is not going to get out of hand. The only difference is you're not going to get that special teams portion to it. Houston, they have always had incredible special teams, and their defense is one of the top in the league, and it has been ever since they had that coaching change. The Denver Broncos, John Payton, yes, he's been an offensive mastermind, but you go ahead and see what they did last year, and that young crew that they have there, they're really impressive. Minnesota. Now, this is a really surprising from what they did last year. They were getting people off the field. They were having interceptions, fumbles, turnovers, all that kind of stuff. And it was something that you can't expect that for this upcoming year. Yeah, they're going to get the ball back. They're going to turn it over, but are they going to be able to keep the offense on the field so that the defense gets a break with JJ McCarthy? It will have to see. Baltimore is always the top thing. John Harbaugh, yeah, he's a special teams coach in his background, but the Ravens are, I'm going to bloody you up and then see if you survive. Buffalo is, again, another one of those teams. They are all about the turnovers. They led the league in turnovers last year. And it's one of those things where Josh Allen's going to keep the offense on the field and it's going to give them plenty of time to rest. Philadelphia, that's what won the Super Bowl for him. Sure, Jalen Hurts had a couple of things to say about that in the Super Bowl, but if you look at it, the Philadelphia Eagles shut down the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, that was last year, but they did not change their core from this year. Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have always been wanting to get back to that Aaron Donald type mentality. I think that they can go ahead and grow, and nice weather, look good, feel good, play good. I think special teams, they're going to see a couple returns on that one. San Francisco 49ers. I think their schedule is just easy. I think that out of all the teams in that division, I think the 49ers are going to have the easiest time stopping the rest of their group. I mean, Arizona, they're not going to have anybody other than Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. Yeah, you have James Conner running the ball, but that's also Trey Benson. Maybe it's going to be taking that. I think the Cardinals are probably the one team that you got to worry about. Seattle, okay. You have Njigma. Oh. And then Sam Darnold, that's the quarterback. The man can see ghosts. Yeah, he did well in Minnesota last year, but he absolutely gets frazzled if you get pressure on him. And that's the defensive coordinator, Rob Saleh. Incredibly aggressive. Overall, I think they're going to have a really good chance. That finally brings me down to my last team. It's going to be the Washington Redskins. I like what they did last year. Yes, the numbers didn't show it, but I believe that another year with this coaching staff, with this young defense, you are going to see an uptick. ESPN doesn't believe so, but I absolutely think so. That's my thought process on defenses. Megan, do you have anything else to add?
Like I said, I'm not really a pick a defense before I start my fantasy draft, but I really want to like the Broncos this year. Ravens, I like to hate them. Bills, obviously. Eagles, obviously. 49ers, I just can't get behind after being not happy with them in the previous years. And the Redskins, hopefully it's their breakout year, but we've been saying that for years now.
All right. So that wraps up our breakdown of the wide receivers, running backs, defenses, and how a flex or even a super flex slot can change your strategy. Nail these spots, and you'll be on your way to PPR dominance.
Big thanks to everyone listening. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you like, subscribe, and by all means share it with your league mates.
Good luck with your upcoming draft. Remember to analyze matchups, look at projected opportunities, and make the most of every roster spot.
Come back next Wednesday before you make your picks for week 1 of the 2025-2026 NFL season. We'll break down how to maximize your lineup by choosing the right players for the games and up-to-date information on injuries. And remember, nobody circles the wagons like CTW.
Good night.